All right. 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Tejas Menon, thank you so much for coming to the School of Bass podcast. It means a lot to me that you said yes to this. How are you doing today?
Great. And what an easy answer it was for me as well, Saurabh. First of all, I'm a huge fan of yours. The first thing you'll remember is that I said that I feel terribly unqualified to be on your podcast.
You're not, man. You're really, really amazing.
No, I know. No, well, I'm not even saying that the School of Bass, the title threw me off. I know you've been getting guests from across the board. I just want to say that, when it comes to, and I'm sure we'll discuss this as we do it, but like, I feel very like, when I hang out with like a lot of really great musicians, I feel very like, not even imposter syndrome, but just feel like, I was like, I don't know if I should be hanging around over here. So, but the fact that you called, I'm privileged. Thank you. Thanks a lot. I'm happy to be here.
I'm also happy to talk to you, man. So, I read a lot of things before getting in touch with you and, talking to you over the podcast.
Right.
One thing I couldn't find any information about is your music education for some reason.
That's because there is none.
Yeah, because how did you train yourself? If it's all self-taught, what was your process? Just transcription altogether?
No, nothing. I was in. I mean, it's not a story I've said too often, but usually when people kind of ask me what I did for, like, how did I get into music, I often say that it's a career I pretty much like stumbled onto by accident. I wasn't educated in music at all. I love music, of course. I was singing, and I was in my band in high school, and I spent a lot of time bunking classes and going to the music room and chilling with my music teacher, who at that time, like, especially the school I was in, Indian system, it's very like kind of rote, and everybody wants you to do academics. And in our school, in ICSE and ISC, we weren't allowed to drop like maths. I wasn't allowed to take like other things that I really want to do. Like, I was also kind of like drifting away from science. I was like, my brain was not like kind of getting into it as much, but I was reading a lot more. I was reading a lot of books. I was watching a lot of movies. So I think I just got into music, by virtue of just listening to a lot. It was high school and stuff. And then I didn't really, again, think about it for a long time. I was just writing songs on my own after, because I picked up the month you get between board exams and prelims, like, so January you have prelims, March you have board exams. So I borrowed my friend Aaron his guitar, his acoustic guitar in Feb, and instead of studying, I learned how to play acoustic guitar a little bit. And then yeah, I just kept playing that. And I came to, when I studied also, I have an economics degree, and then I did a master's in media, because my thing was to do advertising, and I really want to make films. It's something I still want to do. And make like, just like movies, or just like short films and little pieces of, things like that. So, and music was just like ongoing on the side. And then when I moved to Bombay after university, I just started playing shows, because, there would be open mic, not even open mics.
Yeah.
I don't think I did open mic, but just, like these little kind of, play one acoustic set here or there. And I just think hanging out actually with Alok Padhe,
Yes.
JJ, Adil, these guys, Warren, of course, who is super influential. Just hanging out with them, kind of like, that was my education, really, So, yeah.
So my curiosity mainly is that first, that there's this whole concept of that we need some sort of education about playing, writing, transcribing, singing,
Absolutely, yeah.
how to write lyrics, and the list just goes on, right? I'm curious about how did you get your hands on the instrument? You decided to teach yourself. So I'm curious about that exactly. That
Okay.
is it you took a list of songs that you loved and you were singing them? The other thing is reaching the place where you're now writing your own stuff, and building it to that point.
Right.
And you're saying there's no music education involved as such. There's inspiration involved, but no education
No, well,
involved.
you're right in the sense that I mean, there has to be a level, like a process, right? Like, I can certainly say that I am a lot more refined in my process of writing, and the things that you mentioned now, because I've kind of honed that skill set over several years. One is obviously by just the very virtue of doing it over and over again, and discarding the things that don't work, and then improving upon the things that do work. So that definitely is one half of it. The other thing is, like, yeah, I can trace a through line back to, me picking up a piano. My brothers discarded like Casio in grade 6, and then kind of just annoying everybody in the house. I didn't really know what a chord was or a triad was or anything like that. I just figured like, oh, cool. If I space my fingers out so by this much distance on, I'll form like what sounds like to be a group of notes that go well together. Now obviously I didn't realize, because I would try other combinations and it wouldn't work, it wouldn't be as pleasing to the ear. Now of course I realize there's so much more to that, right? Like,
Hmm.
but just back then it was me
More like
playing a keyboard.
literally playing with the instrument.
Yeah, literally just kind of picking up. And then my mother said, "Do you want what do you like want? Do you want like a keyboard or something for you, like proper keyboard?" Because I was just doing like right hand kind of stuff. And then so she said, "I'll if you have some pocket money saved, if you kind of save up, I'll split it with you. We'll buy like a Yamaha." So I bought like I had like one of those PSR kind of keyboards. I had that in school, and that's really what I was playing with. So a lot of my foundational stuff definitely was on keyboard. And those old kind of keyboards, it has a little LCD display, and it
Yeah,
would
yeah.
tell you, like, oh, put your fingers here. This is a chord. Sometimes they had grouped chords, and like so that's kind of like where I understood the nature of it. Obviously, I was in choir in school a lot, and just the kind of arrangements that they would make, whether you're a soprano or whatever, bass, tenor, things like that, that would basically give me the understanding that, oh, when you kind of group notes together, this is what you create. Like from a very like layperson's understanding, I was just like, yes. And it's funny that you mentioned it, that how did you kind of do this, is because I've had many such instances of being parts of different groups of things that require music to do. So one is obviously being in school in the choir, the other one was being in a band, where I was a singer. At one point I was the drummer. I just learned drums for by myself, and I was this high school drummer. Then going to college, then I was in a college band, and like everybody's different understandings of music kind of obviously influenced my own. But my favorite thing was to sing, man. I still think primarily I'm a singer. And I used to listen to a lot of Michael Bublé and jazz, or at least that pop kind of jazz, that kind of stuff. And I used to love that because I was just like, wow, this is such an interesting way to kind of control your voice. I think that was probably the thing that drove me most
So
to.
the approach is being curious and then just being hands on. Like just step into it and start doing it and do it so much that it starts coming out the right way, the way it is supposed to be. That's the approach that you're saying
I,
and
I
talking
I
about in
think
the song.
curiosity 100% is definitely. I think that is who I am. Like, in the sense that, like a few years ago, I discovered what a synth was, and I was just like, oh my God, synths are so cool. Let me just, I bought a little Volca, I bought some drum machines, I just like enjoyed the synthesis kind of process. Just like, oh, this is your creating sounds. So for me, it's not like I'm now like a synth head, or first of all, super expensive hobby. The second thing was I just
Was your last single very expensive? Because it's a lot of
There
synths
is a lot.
coming out. The
No, but I have a
Bombay doors,
nice,
right?
thank you, the Bombay Doors. Yeah, I
Yes.
have a nice, what do you call it? Key lab here by, Arturia, which has been, very faithful, and, it's helped me kind of learn a little bit more about analog lab and just, how to create like patches and, tones and things like that. But like, again, it was just like the curiosity definitely drives things. But you're asking me what's the thing that inspires, like the thing that inspires me most about, like most of my references for JJ, and when I'm producing here on my laptop, or we're working with Adil and JJ on the music, is like a lot of it is movie references, man. I'm a big movie guy. Like I
Hmm.
love the cinema experience, and I love how music is such a huge part of that. I think that I want my songs to also kind of reflect that kind of direction more than I want to be able to of course gotten a lot more educated, the jargon of like, oh, there's a tag at the end of this, oh, there's like, we go in halftime, we go double time, all of these like the terminology was so alien to me when I first because it was just me playing acoustic guitar and singing my own songs. And the other interesting thing is that you're saying that curiosity is definitely one thing. The other thing is just like hands on. But to be absolutely honest, I've still not been able until now. I'd say I'm the closest I've been to creating what I envisage as a sound that I would really love to do, because I'm still not educated. I'm not proficient enough in the process. At least I wasn't, to be able to create the thing that I wanted. So you can obviously see, even like if any person had taken some time to listen to my music, it would be like my first EP was being guided by a rough kind of sense of what I like about music, but also Warren's, who produced it, Warren Mendonca, who kind of his sensibilities, which kind of obviously coalesced with mine, um, those kind of influence. And then the second album is slightly more, produces more of what I want. And now, if, like the new album, which I'm working on, is like I'd say it's 80% of what I've wanted to hear in my own music. And that's still
Hmm.
not, it's still not full, because I'm not there yet. And I don't ever want to kind of be there yet. Like I still want to keep like growing that, that process.
So, are there times when you kind of are writing a song, you're imagining a certain soundscape, certain emotion that you
Yes.
want to produce from the sound and the synthesis of the sound or the
Right.
production of the song altogether?
Yeah.
But do you feel limited at times that, hey, I don't know how to tell this to the producer of the album, so let's just go with whatever is coming out of the song? Has that happened? And
Ab- I, I,
does it, is it something that keeps happening?
I'd say it absolutely happens in the sense that at least on Make It Happen in my previous album, definitely felt that well, not even inadequacy. Like, the thing is that I'm, that traditional kind of old school Bollywood composer vibe where, like, ek dhun aaya, and then you're just like, I just want to do this vibe. And, like, and then you have all
से
these, like,
गाने में लचक आनी चाहिए.
exactly, that vibe. And then, like these producers were sitting there going like, okay, cool, let me just like, it's that vibe. It was, and I never, and I obviously I'm a singer, so I go into a lot of studios where I've seen a lot of these composers, and be like, oh, and I'll be like, what about the lyrics? They're like, ha, kuch bhi ga. So I have to
कुछ
just like,
अच्छा.
so the thing is, like, I never wanted to be that guy. I definitely want to be in control of what I want to produce. So even on my last album, I knew I wanted, like, a big kind of horn arrangement on, say, one of my songs. I definitely had to rely on people like Ramon, like Ryan at the time, Mira Fernandez, Reese as well. These guys. I mean, there is a reason why you go to specialists for a thing, right? Like even a director for a movie, even though he may be an auteur, he may not know the intricacies of the process, but he has like a collective, like he has a vision. I want to be able to be as close to the processes as I can be on each side. So I need to be able to know what range. Say an alto sax kind of operates in, so that I can write in that. And once I write in it, I can't score against sheet music. Is something I really want to be able to learn, and I want to do it at some point. But I can roughly say, oh, in these notes, this is what I'm going to write here. And obviously technology helps so much that I can roughly tell you the ideas, and then obviously I'll need somebody like a Ramon or Rohan to kind of just like score, like notate it, and then we take the song forward from there. But yeah, it does irk me, man. Like, somebody asking me, like, you know is that a limitation? I feel, yeah, 100%. I
But
100%.
hiring the specialist helps then, that in
I
that
think
case.
I think there is a point in which you have to relinquish that and say that there are people who are so good at this, and it's not like I'm telling them what to do and they go like, okay, cool, yes, so this is what we're doing. Obviously you want it to be collaborative in the sense that they should understand what you want and then kind of take it to another dimension. I think a good example of this was, I didn't write a solo for one of the songs, a song called Wine on my last album, and Reese was there. And Reese, I wanted Reese to play the solo, and all I could tell him was, I told him, hey, why don't you just do a few takes? And he did a couple of takes on the song, and there was this really kind of, it was exquisite. It was Reese. It was so good. And then I just told him, I was just like, hey, Reese, do you, on the talkback, I was just like, hey, do you think, should I just tell you a little bit about what the song is about? Because sometimes it's like, it's
Yeah,
when
as
they're like,
musicians, yeah, I
we
know the
don't,
session musicians go
session.
just play the chords and come.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
and there's nothing
that
wrong with that
happens.
because they're
I
so
know.
good. They execute. But I told him that for me, this is such an emotional process. I've raised this money myself. Like I want to be able to tell you what this song is about. And if you're
Sometimes I also don't know shit about what is the song
dude, exactly.
exactly about, and I'm just playing the chords. I'm the same that
It's
way.
the same. I know, and
Yeah.
you tell, and it's okay. I think that's fine. Like JJ and Adil now, as a part of our process now, I start to tell them before the song starts, like, this is what the song is about. And of course, we become so close. We're like, they're like brothers to me now that they know what's happening in my life. That kind of inspires them.
I've started paying attention to that now.
I think it does inform. I mean, there is
The
something there.
lyrics, what is the person talking about? It's very
Absolutely, and
important.
it's there in the touch, And when I told Reese, I told him this is what the song is about, and he played this. The next take he did, it was bang on. I don't know, maybe it's just kind of like, maybe I thought that that's what I did, and maybe that's why I selected it. But like, I certainly believe that it had some kind of quality to it, some impact. That's the take that is there on the album now, and for me, that's really special to me, that I can at least tell him that this is what I want, and then you tell me what you can offer. How do you
Hmm.
translate my emotion into music? That's what I
That's
want.
it.
Yeah.
Hiring the specialist, making them do their own thing, that really works. You mentioned your degree in economics,
Yeah.
and now I want to discuss this whole concept of creating fans then creating super fans where you launch a campaign to
Hmm.
fund your album,
Yeah.
and the moment it's released, 6 hours later it's kind of overflowing, right? People
Yeah.
want to put in even more money than what you asked for. You asked
Right.
for 2 lakhs, it reaches 4 lakhs, something like about 4 lakhs, right? That's what it reached.
Yep. Yep.
So was this what are you doing differently here where people really want to support you, right? Because there are other artists also who are launching their campaigns. It's not that other people aren't doing this, right?
Yeah.
They are not able to achieve or conquer their goals in terms of finances. A lot of artists try about it.
Sure.
Do you have anything that you think that you have done differently, that you have created fans out of super fans out of fans which are actually giving you real money?
I don't know. Okay. There are some answers to this question which I want to believe is true, and then sometimes, obviously, let me at the outset state that I'm not even the most like kind of active person on. So I do my part. I know how to kind of say things or speak and articulate things to people well enough, I think, that they understand what my point is and what I want to try and convey. And then I can only hope that it's said with the level of conviction that people believe me, that I have some integrity or I put in some authenticity into my work. That's all I can hope for. Now, whether it translates to them and how they kind of respond to that is clearly up to them. It seems that people do have some kind of response to when I talk about things. I don't know. I just think that one of the things I at least pride myself on is like, and this is a way, it's not just music, but just in life also. Like vulnerabilities. I mean, it's probably a term you've heard associated with the whole singer-songwriter thing, right? Like that you can open yourself up and and say anything to a crowd. And I first thought that that's just like this is like a tool of the trade, oh,
A
I'm going to go to a
marketing
show.
gimmick,
Yeah,
maybe.
exactly. I'm
Yeah.
just going to say the truth. And then I started living it, everywhere, like everywhere I go. Even if I've had a conversation like for the first time with somebody, I can tell them anything, and like people, and this is the same way I feel about like my life. People keep asking, oh, is it cool if I ask you, about this? I've gone on to, I've done like other things where I talk about mental health, about the fact, like people talk about how they grow up and things like that. I just always say, yeah, man, I had a very troubled childhood. My parents are separated, and for me to piece together a career was difficult, and the only way I could have done it was with the support of others, and the only way I can get that is if I tell them the truth, and I be honest about it and say, hey, I physically cannot do this by myself. I do need help. The things where I don't need people's help is the ideas, right? Like that's all I have to offer. Like all I can say is that in whatever goes on in here is something that I deem to be of value. And I have to be at some point arrogant enough to believe that that's what's going to drive my career forward. Like I have to kind of go like, I think that whatever's in here is valuable. And I have to just kind of tell people that I think that if you kind of buy into this, you will be rewarded for it. That's all I can kind of go off by. And I think maybe it's that level of like truth that I am willing to kind of offer that makes people go like, oh, that's kind of, I get it. Maybe it's something that people relate to or identify with. I think that's definitely something that I believe to be true about my fans. I don't even think I just call them like listeners. Like they are really ardent about it. And the other thing is like the more I think I try my best to try and talk to people a lot. So when people Instagram, they DM saying, "Hey, I'm like, cool. So how was your day?" Like I just end up like chatting with them because I'm just like,
Hmm.
cool. And after a while, you see the same faces come to shows, and then you start seeing more and more faces. And then, when you meet people, like I remember these two kids who used to come for my shows, and I would see them literally like every time. And then I didn't perform for a long period of time. And then when I came back, I did another show, they were there again. And then I was just like, what's wrong with you guys? I was like, you guys, you can stop coming to shows now, you can like just follow other, and not in the sense that I don't want to see them. I was just like, thank you. And I was just like, can we stop being like artist and fan? Just tell me who you guys are and let's just have a chat, because after a while it's just like I don't have like a million fans out of where I'm just going to go like I don't have time for all of you. I actually do have a little bit of time for most of you. Like I can speak to you guys and we can have a conversation. There was one girl, Satori, who is was a big fan of me, and then they started following like artists like Shortran, Jishnu, Dinkar, another friend of mine, and she started getting really involved. After I was like, hey man, do you want to just help us out with like social media? I was just like, just like I was like, it's time you became like a friend, like what's the point otherwise of like this whole process? All I'm doing is creating music, and you're like taking active time out of it to listen to what I have to say. But like that doesn't mean like there's a difference between us, and which is kind of like a contrasting idea to what used to happen in the 90s, or like before there was social media. It's just like there was that mystique, like who is Slash, like what is behind his hair, who's
That,
the guy,
yeah,
you don't
the
know, there's a
mysterious guy.
mystery. And that is also so intriguing that you really want to know more. I don't know how to do that. There's no way I can be sexy or like mysterious. I just don't have that quality. I can only be like as honest as I can be and try and be silly about it. I think that's probably like the quality that I can be truest about. So I think that has probably been the best thing about it. I don't know.
So being honest, being authentic, being real, and translates to a lot of support. Then that, in a summary, right?
Yeah,
In
and
a
if you're
nutshell,
true about it, yeah, and
true
if
about it,
yeah,
not as a
yeah,
marketing gimmick.
I don't think that works. I think people have a really high bullshit like meter, like as in they can tell whether it's weird like how I was just reading like some web comics. There are lots of really good artists on Instagram, and it used to be this thing where web comics were like really intricately drawn, or not just comics, cartoon strips were so intricately drawn, and now they've become simpler and simpler and simpler to the point that now it's just like if you see sanitary panels like the what do you call it, web comic which is on Twitter, and it's this girl who's super funny, and she's uh, so on point about like what's happening in India and stuff. And it's just stick figures, man. It's just stick figures, but it's so true, and it's so like authentically made that you're like, of course, it's really not about like how good you can be or how technically like the prowess level is. It's about can you tell something honestly, and then if you have the skill to back it up, man, that's gold. Then like then that's really really something.
Hmm. Like last, Sunil Sampat was on the
Right.
podcast. He's a jazz critic. I'm sure you know
Yeah,
him.
yeah, of
Also
course.
writes for the Rolling Stone
Yep.
magazine. So while I was talking to him, I was doing some research about the podcast, what to talk to him about, and everything. And I came across Mario Miranda, who's
Of course.
a cartoon artist. He
Yeah.
sketches. So
Yeah.
they basically joined hands for the Jazz Yatra.
Right.
So he's been sitting through the concerts and gigs, and he's been just sketching all that down, not as like how a painter. I mean, I think that's the
Yeah,
right
yeah, yeah.
word.
Like an illustrator. Yeah, yeah.
Artists do, but it's like more of an illustration, and it's so well captured, man. I don't know like how many years ago he would have done it,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah. I
it's
think
alive.
Mario Minder passed away. I want to say. If I'm
I think around 2012.
Yeah,
I think so.
2012. Yeah,
I
yeah.
think
Oh
so.
man, the guy's work is all over. First of all, in Goa, you go anywhere, it's like
Even Leopold Cafe, right?
Leo's obviously is, yeah, it's famously done by him. Yeah, man, he's a true artist, and I'm so proud. Like like it's just like we
It's
have.
real art. You're
So
right.
yeah,
When you can see it that it's real. It's not
absolutely.
just about I'm going to draw this and it's going to sell. It's not about that. It's
Yeah,
much more to that.
yeah, and I think every time you try and follow a trend where you think like, oh, cool, I'm going to try and hop on this trend. By the time you get it right, it's over. Like, and the only thing you can do is just be authentic and hope that that starts something, because you can't be ahead of the game if you're not doing something that you truly think is like your own original style. I just think that that's the truest thing I've learned. Like even when people talk about the industry saying, oh, what's the like disco pop is back again, or guitars are back, things like that, when they're talking about trends in music. And I'm just like, it those trends are there, but like you never, by the time you produce something quick enough to reach it, it's gone. It's like over. Like you have to kind of just do what you think is right, and do it honestly, and then
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
whatever Bruno Mars is coming up with right now,
yeah.
it's so
Sounds exciting. Yeah,
true and real to him, and it's not the generic chord structures, it's not the generic arrangements.
yeah.
Everything's hip about it.
Man, yeah, it's just great sensibility with great like production style. I mean, like they've kind of like aced it. I think about like music in India and like how we have like an opportunity and a disadvantage. At the same time, like we have the disadvantage, which is like we don't have the years, of just doing the craft, like for like at least in this kind of pop space, and we've been doing it through Bollywood. But right now the way we're kind of trying to, like, like when you go to different parts of the world, they have a sound. Like Seattle has a sound, this New Orleans has a sound. I was like, what is the Bombay kind of sound? What is that we're creating? So the disadvantage is that we're figuring it out, and the opportunity is that we have, it's fresh. We can actually do something kind of interesting right now. And it's like a really interesting time where people from, the industry have kind of like also understood that there's this thriving independent kind of place. That's exciting for me, man.
I
Like
think
that really,
during that 90s period, no, when
indie
Shan
pop.
was coming up,
Yeah, yeah.
indie pop, Shubha Mudgalji made these
It was an interesting
albums.
time, man. Actually, I wish they
That time
doubled
the
down on it.
sound, yeah, the sound was getting created of like Pia Basanti came up.
Of course, lovely.
Sandesh Chandelier, the music
Yeah,
director for
so
that.
good,
It was just such a lovely time.
amazing,
And I'm glad we grew up around that music. It made us think.
100%,
And then I
100%.
don't know, it kind of fizzled out
I
after
think it's
that.
I think it's fizzled out because I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if this is true, but like the Antara Mukhada style of making like music, which is in Bollywood, at least at the time, at least with the whole Panchamda style, Lakshmikant Pyar, like that Jatin Lalit style, which is that very road kind of that sectioned out kind of music, was still using a very classical Indian arrangement. And then I think indie pop was just like, oh, cool, we're going to use like chord progressions and we're going to use, here's a bridge, here's a verse, here's a hook, a kind of refrain. Those kind of ideas like infiltrated like our music, and they started making indie pop. And then with like Shankar Ehsaan Loy, and then you have Vishal Sheikh, all these guys, they started adopting that style, and then the need for indie pop was almost kind of like it kind of diminished, I think, the value, because it's just like now we could start making like this kind of new arrangement in Bollywood music.
Mainstream Bollywood,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I think it was interesting. It was a really cool kind of place, but yeah, we lost. Maybe we lost something, which I think is back now. I think
No,
it's
but you're right about that. That those soundscapes now just straight up can be used in mainstream, like the movie Lakshya done by Shankar Ehsaan Loy.
love that. That soundtrack is
Yeah,
mid.
and Jaane Kyun Log Pyar Karte Hain. The synth sounds, if you think
Yeah,
about that,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you think about the synth sounds in Pari Hu Main. It's kind of the similar
Yeah, that
soundscape.
is true. That is true. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think
So
they've kind of transitioned from that. Yeah,
your perspective makes sense. But yeah, I mean, there was jazz also. Yeah, there was so much
and
jazz in the beginning of Bollywood music, where Albela movie, the
right,
songs of
right.
Albela movie. There's Babuji Dheere Chal. There's so much jazz
And
in there.
yeah, then
Straight up.
there's that, yeah, that the classical stuff, like the even like stuff like I'm a big like Gurdat fan, like like in movies like Pyasa and stuff. Like the music is like it's incredible, man. Like I kind of miss that, like that era. I would think that if somebody kind of brought that back, that would be like like our flavor. Like that would be like the equivalent of what my friend Harry used to keep saying this thing. He's like, they just, rock and roll can never exist in India is because, we don't, I mean, of course we need like a punk movement and all that stuff, but you can't like, that rock and roll was born out of like something, like a part of like, which is tied into the DNA of American history. And saying like, the most rock and roll thing in India would be if somebody took a sitar and a tabla and did something wild with it, And I was just like, yeah, we are seeing like, I mean, there's Niladri and there's a bunch of people who are like doing something which is very authentic to us, which I find like absolutely awesome. Like even what Achint has done, or Don Butt, has taken like, the essence of our like our history and kind of like imbued that into pop music. That's cool, man, for me.
I mean, uh, I've started questioning now that if something which is not part of a culture
Yeah.
altogether, like, because if you see, if something happened here in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 70s and was sticking around, jazz
Right.
was here till the 70s and being
Right.
played in Calcutta.
Mm-hmm.
Something happening for 40 years here is, you can kind of debate it, you can argue about it, that is it part of a culture now or not, because if it's being
True.
consumed and produced at the same time, the
True.
loop is on, it's 40 years.
40 years, yeah. It's not
And
nothing.
of
Yeah,
course
it's
it
definitely
fizzled
something.
out. And then I also question that if you are not, sometimes, that I have heard this a lot of times, people
Hmm.
tell me that, or other people around me are being told this, that hey, you're not from there, you'll never be able to play that kind of music. But when I'm talking to all these amazing people, I'm talking to Sunil Sampat and I'm hearing and listening to all the amazing things that happened in our country.
Yeah.
I've become more curious. I just bought this book called The Taj Mahal Foxtrot.
Okay.
It's about the history of jazz in Mumbai. It's written by
Oh,
Naresh
that's
Fernandez.
so cool.
I just bought it, and I just bought Uncle Louis' book, his
Right.
biography that has
Yeah.
come out, just to know, man, what happened here. And because I got into the music scene very late in my life, I was like 21 when I started playing bass seriously, and finished my college, started this new career, blah blah blah, and then just went on from there.
Nice.
But there's something really debatable that is it actually not part of our culture? Is it part of our culture?
Ah,
I'm
man.
really curious now to
I,
just, take a deep dive.
I really think I think this this argument has hit me in the face for so long, right? Like I didn't grow up in India. I grew up in Dubai. I was there for 18 years, and then I came to India and I studied in Pune, and then I moved to Bombay. So for me, anyway, like identity is such a huge part of music, right? Like you was like, oh, where do I belong? What is my music, etc. I mean, when it comes to any form of art, and I've always felt like you know, and I'm a songwriter. I'm a pop songwriter who sings in English. I didn't grow up in India. I didn't like really grow up in the West either. I grew up in the Middle East in in Dubai in the 90s, which was a weird coming of age time for itself on its own, leave alone me. So any place I try to kind of identify, say, oh, I want to be from here, I've always felt like, oh, but there's so many more people who are actually from that place that kind of have more claim or more stake in it. I recently did a song called The Bombay Doors,
Yeah.
and that song was like a way for me to say that if I just keep moving, I'm never going to find like a kind of a place which I can say, oh, this is truly mine, or have some kind of ownership or, over it. And for me, Bombay, even though I've been here for like maybe what, 8 7 8 years, this is probably the most influential time it has been for my life. So I have to feel like this is mine. Now, when I take that into a macro concept and think about pop music, English music, I remember, whenever I do this thing, I get calls, oh, Tejas, wow, great, but you were born in the wrong country. This keeps happening a lot, saying that, oh,
Uh,
why do you sing with an accent? All of this stuff. And I'm like, for me, it's like, this is what I grew up listening to. This is what's authentic to me. This is what's true to me. And then the larger identity thing of it is that, man, look at the world right now. If you think about what's popular culture or what's music or movies or anything like that, it's barely 100 years. It's barely 100 years. And 100 years in the grand scheme of things is like infinitesimal when it comes to art and culture, right? Like that means nobody should be painting because the Renaissance happened and that
uh,
was like
you're
Italy and
not
stuff
from
like.
Italy.
Yeah, you're not from
Don't
Italy.
paint.
Don't do. And you know what? And the funny thing is that I think the spotlight of the world will kind of ultimately shift from the US and the UK. Like what is happening when you like look at something like anime or K-pop, right? And how
Hmm.
suddenly we're looking at this part of the world, Korea, and its soft culture that is kind of permeated like pretty much everywhere in the world. Are we not supposed to say, okay, cool, you can't do that anymore? Dude, it's ridiculous, man. 100 years is too small a sample size for us to be able to, like, oh, that's ours. No, it's not. It's like in the next 100 years, it could be like us, man. And then people be like, oh, that's only from India. I'm just like, dude, you can't do that. You can't, it's impossible for you to kind of to stake a claim on it. As long as you do it with authenticity, I mean, and if you have a history and if you know the subject material, it's not like appropriation. You can tell when there's appropriation. Like when bands come to India and then they shoot like a music video because they just want to have that vibe. It's just like, oh, you're cool. Can you? Then that's a little bit of appropriation. There's that you can tell. Like, but
Hmm.
I just feel like if you know the craft, if you have grown up on the craft, or like if you have had a passion for it, and you can actually have discourse and you can understand where it comes from, I don't see why. I mean, that way hip hop is. I mean, is something that is hip hop culture is American culture. It's like it's black culture, and the fact that it's got such a huge movement now in India, can anyone say that, oh no, why? Because hip hop, its embodiment is of it comes from the people. It's the people's champion of music, and
Right.
and discourse. And so how can you take that away and say that you don't want to do that? It's I don't know. It seems I feel like that argument is losing steam for me by the day.
Yeah, for a lot of people, it's English is actually the first language spoken in their houses. Because when I went to Sam for the first time and I met JJ, I met Ryan,
Yeah.
I met so many people from Bombay, and they would barely talk in Hindi unless really, really needed to communicate something to somebody. And the
Right.
Hindi that came out of their mouths was also hilarious.
I think it still is.
So I was kind of making, I was understanding that time that, okay, it seems like that even in Bombay, there are subcultures inside the city. And then, of course, when I moved here, then I saw more that, okay, there are people speak mostly in English in Bandra, the friends we have, Rees and all. And
Yeah.
once I was talking to Rees and he was saying that, man, I went to Andheri East yesterday, my Hindi has improved.
First of all, what a
S-
Reese thing to say.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, for them, it's for them. Like I grew up in a proper Indian household.
Right.
To Jagjit Singh,
Awesome.
to the maximum, the most Western my dad got
Yeah.
was OC Bisa because OC Bisa came to Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium at some
Right.
point, and everybody who was alive and young that time went to see that gig. That's how he knew OC Bisa. That's how he told me about OC Bisa. But then, of course, I learned on the job that, okay, I'm going to do this for a living. I'm going to become a professional. So I
Right.
learn all the songs that come my way.
Awesome.
I had developed a ear because I was learning Indian classical. Then everything was basically a sur for me. Okay, I play this, I play that. And then, of course,
Yeah.
the repertoire started growing. I started getting gigs and I kind of learned things as I went. As a songwriter, do you prefer that you write a song and just straight up take it to the band, record it, and document it? Or do you prefer that I write a song, I properly season the band playing that song, go on the road, play it like 100 times, and then we record?
Yeah.
What do you choose between the two?
That's such a great question. Because it's something I have I have thought about over the years. Like I said, because I had moved like different cities, especially during like very formative years, like from say 18 to 21. I was just like moving about a fair bit. I didn't really have people to rely on. Like I didn't have a band, or like even the concept of like making music with other people was completely alien to me. It was just me and my acoustic guitar. So my vision for what I wanted my songs to be was all in here. There's all the DAW, everything, the project files, all here only. Uh, so I didn't really have that experience. And then when I moved to Bombay, we had to do like some videos and things like that. So I needed to kind of assemble like a bunch of people. Adil, of course, was a huge part of that first wave of people. And of course, JJ, Alok, Warren kind of came into the picture. So for me, it was back then, it was. I have this song. It's on the acoustic guitar. Obviously, for my first record, Warren kind of really fleshed it out, and the way we recorded that album was amazing, dude. It was just like Warren was like, like classic Warren. We like, we'll do it all live. We'll do 3 days of rehearsal, 3 days of recording live, and then it's done. And we actually did that. So we rehearsed it for 3 days, and we arranged all the parts. And of course, I had a huge say in that because there are ideas that I still wanted to kind of happen. I just didn't have
This is the
this
EP. This is Small
the
Victories.
first EP, yeah. And then we tracked it in 3 days, and then it took like 3 days to like 3 or 4 days to mix it. So I was just like, wow, I'm gonna make like hundreds of albums, dude. And then my next album took 3 years. So anyway, so the difference, right? But then after that, once I was so immersed in the process, like, and then we were touring the album, and obviously I started writing more songs. I started writing the second album, and then we started playing those songs first, and then when we played it live, and then obviously I had a better understanding of it. I still, there were still parts I was really anal about. I was like, yeah, I really want this, really want that, and I really wanted to have those things. Like there was, without question, when it comes to like even songwriting, I try and flesh it out as much in my mind, like where the structure is going to be before I take it to the band. And then obviously over the years, once I started playing with Adil and JJ, who are now the only members, it's just the three of us now. I've kind of become a little more looser with it because I trust them implicitly now. Like I know we've all kind of played together for so long now that I kind of understand, like, okay, cool. There's some parts that I'm very adamant about, and then there's some parts where I just couldn't care about how it needs to be played here. Like I'll leave it to Adil to come up with something, or I'll leave it to JJ to come up with something. But the basic thing is like, oh, cool. This section is gonna have like it's gonna have a halftime feel. Suddenly it goes into something else. Those are the kind of decisions that I'll be like, yeah, I definitely need to have those. And it's one of those things. Like also, it's like the more you learn about something, the harder it becomes. Like the more ignorant I was about music, the easier it was, man. Like it was just like, oh, cool. This is we got to do this here. We put this on top. Now I realize, oh man, you can't occupy these frequency ranges. You can't put like the same notes on one instrument here and there. You can't. Like that's a terrible idea. Like you the more you kind of understand the engineering, the physics, like the sheer physics of it, then it starts to become like it's a maze, man. Like it's a real puzzle making songs, especially when you with the two. I've always felt like limitation is such a good or is the best thing for creativity. When you're given so and so, when I was given 3 days to track and record, that's what we did. That's it. When you have this open playing field where you're like, cool, like current album being made on 4 different DAWs, right? It's being made on Luna, Pro Tools, Studio One, and Ableton, and it's like the more tools you have, the more things. It's just like it can be quite endless, and
Hmm.
and I I do enjoy that. If people have heard my work, it's like I don't look at the album saying like, oh, this has to have one kind of cohesive vibe. I just go with the songs like, what does this song need? What is the best way we can do this one? And then we produce it like in this maximal kind of production because I just love big, epic kind of ambitious kind of sounds. And I think just the way that approach has take makes us really sit in on the process for like a long period of time. It really kind of takes a lot of time, and I really like to kind of um, I would really like to have played a lot of this material live. We did a little bit of it, and then the lockdown happened, so I couldn't really get to kind of getting the nuances. And like in my last album, there were 8 songs, and I'll tell you, this is one. Sorry, just to again, huge digression. Not a digression, but like when you season songs, you're like, cool, it started off here. Now we sing it this way. Now it's played this way. It's so much better. It's a lot tighter. It's a lot better.
Hmm.
But the thing is that the latency period between the time you come up with the song and the time you release it, it's so delicate because songwriters, I've seen this happen to so many people where they just like, yeah, maza nahi aa raha hai abhi. It's like it's not fun anymore. We've played it so many times. It's so like and then you change things just to try and make it fresh. And that's probably a bad idea because you had it right. You had it somewhere, but
Hmm.
just because you have played it so many times, you're just like, oh, I don't want to do this song anymore. I want to retire it from the set. And I don't think that's the best thing either. You need to find that sweet spot. So when I was making my last album, there were 10 songs, 8 of which we had played a fair few times. We had played it even at the launch of the first album, like that's how many times we had played it. And then just for variety, I was like, here are 2 songs. We've never played these songs live. Let's put them on the album. And to kind of give it a little bit of freshness, to kind of say, like, okay, cool, there is some material here that nobody's heard before,
Hmm.
and that nobody's kind of, worked on. So it did. And invariably, you know what happens, Saurabh? We change those songs. The songs have released live. I mean, they've released as part of the album. Well, we
Hmm.
play them so differently now, like, because we had time to work on it. And it's a compromise, it's a trade-off, but you're doing it to try to keep like everybody activated, everybody actively engaged in the work. And for me, that's so important. Like half of my writing process, 50% is like, this is what makes me happy, and 50% is like, what will impress Adil and JJ. And that's how I fucking make stuff.
So preference is to play and then record, but then of course you're running the risk of getting bored and
Yeah, at least,
rearranging and
yeah,
then
getting a
go
little bit of,
somewhere else.
yeah, just a little bit of, not jaded, but just a little bit of like fatigue on the song. Yeah.
So you travel abroad a lot to do your gigs, right? You did a bunch of gigs in Canada last year.
I didn't.
Then
I
there's
didn't. I
Dubai.
didn't. I didn't do that. I didn't eventually do that tour. Adil and Mali and all went. We played in Dubai a fair bit, and then
Yeah.
Adil, JJ, and I went to London to play for Ananya Birla. We were her band for a period of
Oh,
time.
this
That was.
wasn't your gig that time. Okay.
I
You were
don't know.
playing a
It wasn't.
session.
I wish, man. But it was an excellent time. If you can imagine the kind of fun we had with Adil, JJ, Ramon, and myself,
Yeah,
it
that's
was
a
great.
good
It was
combination.
yeah, it was essentially like, and these guys have all played with me live, so it was just like, cool, Tejas band is going on a trip, but we're playing for Annie, so that was the vibe.
You were mentioning your friend Satori who's on board to manage and take care of social media. Do you have like a strategy for yourself for social media where you think that I need to put out this much content, I need to make a post a day, I need to grow my Instagram, Facebook, YouTube? What is your strategy? Do you have
Oh
one?
no, I wish. Sort of my strategy is not very refined. I wish it was. I don't think I can. Maybe I need to. I ought to kind of be one of those guys. And the guys who do it are wildly successful, as I'm sure you've noticed, right? Like the people who can go like, I have to do one post a day. I have to keep engaging people. That's the game, right? If you want to be in it, that's the game you got to play. And there's nothing wrong or like there's no shame in it. It's like this is what you need to do to kind of do
It's
it.
yeah, it's a marketing. It's
It's
it's it's a
marketing.
way to
It's the
exist on the digital
Exactly.
platforms.
It's the oldest business in the world, right? It's advertising. And for me, I've had various stints with managers and stuff. Satori was part of a label thing that, I used to be part of. And she used to just help with like, oh, maybe you can do this, maybe you can do that. But in the time that, I relinquished all of that and it's just been me until like a couple of years ago, I didn't have management for a period of time. And then I got Misfits who are on board and they've been really kind of helping me out. And they obviously egg me on to kind of make stuff, but they know I function best when I'm just left to my own devices. So the kinds of things that I really like to make are like I don't think quick and easy is my route. I like making long form stuff, like I maybe I'm a classicist in the sense that I still love albums, I still listen to albums back to front, that's just the front to back in this case. That's just the way. It's not an old school thing. I just think even my own material works better in context of each other's songs. Like independently the songs are good, but like when you view it, thematically together as an album, for me that's the art I aspire to make. When it comes to social media, I just try and post whatever I think is funny or whatever I think is important because I don't want to. I try and strike a balance where I try and treat my social media like, oh, what would I like to document if I just had a diary that was public?
Hmm.
And then I just kind of treat it that way. But the things that I like to post are, just, things that I think people find amusing, like, and you'll see that those things kind of make their way back into my art, whether I'm posting about my cats, which is not even closest to like the most original idea anyone has ever had for social media. But it's just like I post my cats. My cats have been on my album, right? Like one of my cats is on one of my songs. They're on my artwork. Yeah, it
Hmm.
is a very important part of my DNA. The things that are pop culture is immensely impactful on my life and. Growing up, that's all I had. I had Star Wars. Like I've known more about movies than I know more about music. I can always say that to be true. Star Wars has always been such a huge influence for me. So I find all of those things kind of always permeate themselves back into my art, whether it's the type of like artwork that I work with art illustrators to make, or whether it's the soundscape of my music. There is a reason why I use a lot of synths, a lot of digital sounds, a lot of like I like to keep that cinematic kind of style to my music where there's a lot of changes, there's a lot of like movement from soft to there's a lot of dynamic range. That's the kind of stuff that I like to do. So when it comes to social media, I try and make sure that whatever I'm posting about is actually true to me. It's not just like I'm doing it for the sake of doing it. I like to post dumb musical sketch comedy. That's a thing that I've been doing. um I did a
Ho-
musical last year also. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, yeah.
Um, I'm curious that you mentioned that you keep it cinematic. My question is that when you're writing your own music, are you thinking of a video as well while you're writing it? That okay, we're gonna make this song sound like this.
Yes, I'm thinking of a very expensive, unaffordable music video when I'm writing. Yeah, of course I am. I definitely am a visual person. In the sense that, of course, I mean, I think everybody does that, right? Like everyone kind of has like a vision of what the song, even if they can't, articulate or say this is a story or whatever, but they have like a sense of what the textural kind of quality of it would be. I definitely think about that. There's a song on my last album called Falling Out, and the story of the song is only known to me. Like I know what the song is about, like I know what the narrative of it is, but then I distill that narrative into lyrics that can be assimilated in different ways. And then if I had to kind of decide if that narrative was, where would it be set? This is a song that is set in space, so there's a lot of like you know long delays, like endless vast, like tape, like infinite tape loop kind of stuff, that
Hmm.
to indicate the vastness of it. I think that kind of cryptic, where you can make something, it's like I've been telling this to JJ a lot in the last like year. I keep telling him, I was like, JJ, I just want my guitars to sound like what Kylo Ren's lightsaber looks like. Okay. And that's just, I don't know how many times I told him this in the last year, just because I was just like, I can't explain it to you. I just, of course, yeah, it means saturation. I want distortion. I want, all of that stuff. But if I can just tell you this is a visual cue, this is what I want. He's just like, yeah, okay, cool, I get it. And then we get somewhere. And I think that is the reference points for my albums are a lot of movies, like, you know, a lot of movies and a lot of musicals, and that's definitely a way to that I like to think about my music. And that's also probably why I haven't made like a good enough music video. Like I feel like it, I tried writing like this epic kind of ambitious, very large scale, maximal style of music, and I don't think I can just like make a music video within my room. You know, it's like I don't want to do that
Hmm.
because it has to befit the style. You know, I want it to match, and if it doesn't, I'm okay with it. Instead, I'd rather commission like an amazing artist and illustrator like Vibhav Singh, who's been doing my artwork. You know, the guy is he's a genius, and you know, like the way he draws, he really does capture in one image what sometimes music videos cannot do in several,
Yeah,
man.
the Bombay Doors visual is very engaging.
Yeah, yeah, and you know,
It's
it's a
so
pleasure for
engaging.
me to have like even JJ and Adil on it. You know, like that's just it's cool, and you know, for me, all the visuals do connect in my brain. There is a story. You know, it's like it's not something that people need to know. It's something I need to know to guide the process of writing the album, and I think that's just the way it has to be.
So you have a podcast of your own from the last 5 years or something, right? It's called the Geek Fruit.
The Geek Fruit podcast, yeah. I mean, it's on a bit of a hiatus. At least it has been. I was so hipster, Dinkar, Jishnu, and I, that last year.
Hold on, hold on.
It's yeah. Sorry.
Let me ask you three straight questions first about it, and then I
Yeah.
want your
Sure. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
feedback.
Yeah.
So first, that it's got like 340 episodes or something like that,
Yeah.
right? There's a lot of episodes. So which basically means there's a lot of consistency involved in that whole process of creating the podcast again and again.
Yeah.
So please tell people what the podcast is about.
Right.
Second, why do it?
Yes.
Third, if you make money out of it or not. If
Okay.
yes, how do you make money out of
Great. I'll answer the third question first. No. Yeah. Well, okay. Let me elaborate. So the thing is that the podcast is on a bit of hiatus. Because like I was trying to say that, you know, we were so hipster that everybody started a podcast last year. We stopped us. You know, like we were just like, no, we'll just put a pause on it.
it?
So
Just for info, this podcast started before the lockdown. Like it's 2 years old.
it's this one, yeah, just so everybody
Just
knows,
this
yeah,
one.
everybody knows, yeah,
This
yeah,
is
yeah,
from
no, yeah,
before the
you wanted to
podcast.
do something good. No, dude, you have a real legit show. I'm talking about people who, yeah, and there's nothing wrong with it, you know, like everybody wanted to kind of
But
do
I loved your song about how everybody's starting a podcast. I just laughed
yes.
my ass off. I just saw it and I was like, what the hell is this song? Where you making fun of everybody starting a podcast?
It's
It's
all
just too cool.
personal attacks, man, that's all.
Okay, so you stopped the podcast because everybody was doing it.
No, no. That there was obviously there are more reasons than that. I think we were just also really fatigued. We were doing it for 5 years. You know, every week. Sort of, it was like going to therapy every week for 5 years. So basically, how it started was I quit my job in advertising in 2015. Yeah, in 2015, and I had a lot of spare time in my hands, and I was, you know, telling my parents. They were like, "Oh, do you want to? So you're gonna get another job?" I was just like, "Yeah, sure." And then I watched like 3 seasons of The Walking Dead, and I was just like, "Okay, cool. I'm never getting a job again. I'm gonna give this music thing a shot." And so I was like, "Cool. I'm gonna be a musician now. What do I do?" So I looked at my day and I looked at my hours, and I was like, "How can I fill it? Like, what will be the best thing?" And I realized, man, quickly that if I had to do music 24/7, probably kill myself because I just can't. I physically cannot do music for 24 hours. I can't do anything for 24 hours a day, man. Like I need to balance that out with something else, temper it with something else that would distract me enough so that when I come back to music, it feels like I really want to be there. And the other thing I decided, I tried to, you know, narrow down the options of what I would like to spend my time doing. And one of the things was like, here's a job that I feel like I've been qualified for my entire life or been working towards my entire life and I didn't know I wanted, which was that I love movies and I love pop culture and I've read comic books from as long as I can remember. I've read a lot of like science fiction, fantasy, adventure. So you know these are the things that really kind of ignite my mind. I'm inspired by it, and I really thought that wow, what a world we're living in, where the three biggest IPs in the world are like Avengers and Game of Thrones and you know and you know DC Comics and sorry, what was the third one was and Star Wars, right? Star Wars was
Hmm.
coming back after so long. So it was like this movie called The Force Awakens, this is episode 7. So I was just like, wow, I didn't think in my life I would see Star Wars come back to the cinema, but it's coming back. And I just felt like this is a really good time for us to kind of get back into like nerding out what basically all nerds were made fun of in school, just doing that now. Suddenly the nerds, like, we won basically. Suddenly it's cool now to be a nerd, right? And so I found two guys who I kind of gelled with immediately, Jishnu and Dinkar. And I told them, I think this is like primed for us to kind of, let's just talk about, and they have similar interests. And I was like, let's just create a company where we can just create like content, basically, essentially,
Hmm.
about pop culture. So we started Geek Fruit, and the first thing we did was a podcast, which then just kind of outlasted everything. It went on for years, and it started in 2015. We did it every week. Why we did it was, there was always something interesting coming out. There were always these Marvel movies that were coming out, and there was always this. I just wanted to talk about them. I just wanted to like discuss, like, what does this mean, like, and these guys obviously would match me all the time, and they'd be like, oh, maybe it means this, and speculation and fan theories are a huge part of, like,
So who's your audience here? Who are listening to you?
there's
Are
such
these
a
Indian audience or
so
from
we,
around the world?
I think they were obviously, there were a lot of Indian, mostly, like, I'd say your Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, Pune kind of situation. It's not a very there's quite an overlap with independent music. It's just like, here's people who just are interested in watching movies. And the interesting is, I think there's more of a movie audience than ever, right? Like, everybody watches the Avengers films. Everybody was watching the Deadpool films. All of these movies are like, whether you kind of get it or not. Like, I could be watching it here, somebody is watching it on their phone in the train when I would be going, to town. So it's
Hmm.
just there's like a kind of a universality about, like, the kind of like storytelling in that. Like, it's very like archetypal hero kind of story. And it was just like, so we had a lot of Indians listening to it. Then we would have like Indians abroad, basically NRIs, and we'd get like fan mail and we'd read it out, and it's just really silly. And then we would go to Comic Con and represent, as Geek Fruit, talk to like comic book creators and illustrators and writers and just interview them and say, oh man, it's very similar, man, Saurabh. It's like the same thing. Like, any subculture has this independent scene, which the advantages are obviously the same. There's creativity, there's passion, but the disadvantages are literally the same. There's no money. There's no, like, it's we share so much with basically every creator who's trying to do something, authentic or, subjective to them, like, this is what I want to say. It's a huge similarity there. So, we've enjoyed our time doing that. And obviously we kind of expanded it. Then we started doing this thing as a band where we threw this Halloween party every year, which is called Super Scary Awesome. And at these Halloween parties, we would do a band, which would then tribute something. So we've done like 3 years of it now. So the first year we did a Disney tribute, and as Reese properly said, Disney songs are the pop version of jazz standards, essentially, right? Like, it's
That's
like
true.
this is, and so that first year we just ended up doing all these Disney, all basically from Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, all of this stuff, Aladdin.
Where are these gigs happening? The private gigs
No,
being
so they were
curated
open to the
somewhere?
public. It's crazy, man. Everybody comes dressed up. It's like UV lights, so it's like all this neon stuff. And we are on stage. I was dressed up as Mario. Somebody was dressed up as something. It was just like crazy. Like just everyone like having a wild like a wild time. Ramon was also there. He played the Jungle Book tunes with us. Which are like, they were like jazz standards, essentially. Like, it was just really, really cool. And so last year we did that. So the first year we did that. Then we did TV show theme songs. So we just took all the TV shows that we love, and we just played their theme songs, and it was just like another, like, just a really fun time. Then last year we had to do it digitally, so we did the entire concert online. Obviously, we pre-recorded the parts, but we did, again, like, different songs, some Guardians of the Galaxy, all of this kind of stuff. It was just super fun. Back to the Future. And then we started playing these tunes, Dinkar, Jishnu, and I, as an acoustic trio at Comic Cons, like
Hmm.
Comic Con Ahmedabad, Comic Con Bombay. And it's just like, when people go to Comic Con and they watch like three guys playing like Powerpuff Girls, or, just playing like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles theme song. It's just suddenly they're like, people's just like, oh wow, you can do that? That's crazy. And just like, it's such a revelation.
Such cool songs, man.
Yeah, yeah.
When Friends was big, then people would do that song in colleges most of the
we
times.
we end with that song, obviously, because it's like the most famous thing. It's not even obviously our favorite, but we do the Game of Thrones theme, all of this stuff, and it's just super fun, man. Like, more than anything else, it's fun. It's just lots of silly fun.
So, where does all this lead eventually for an independent artist? You're writing albums, you're doing gigs. Is it more of a need of your soul, your heart, that you have to do it, and this is the best way you know for yourself to exist? Or there's a bigger goal that if I do XYZ steps, then I will reach this destination and I'll be able to do this with my life. Is there some sort of a vague strategy, a blueprint that's in your head?
I, you know, I definitely, at least at the time that I'm in right now, I definitely feel, yeah, I, I don't know, like it's so funny. Uh, I, I still struggle, like with rent, like, I mean, like that's the main thing I have to work for every single day. It's like, oh, how am I going to pay rent this month? How am I going to pay rent this month? Every month I'm just like, how can I pay rent? And it's so funny. It comes at such a dissonance where, you'll play a gig, everyone's there, everyone's like cheering, oh, Tejas, wow, so good, blah blah blah, so much like endorphins, and you're just like, wow, I feel so good. And then the next day you're like, oh shit, I still have to pay rent. It's like just I still think about those things, and obviously the things that I do and the things that a lot of people do are like really off center, left of center. It's weird. It's its own thing. And for me, I know that the only thing I know how to do is make shit. Like I only know how to make stuff, like create something from nothing. And it may be the dumbest like sketch comedy, it may be an album, it may be in the future a series, a podcast, a movie. I don't know, but this is the only thing I know how to do, and I know
Hmm.
that whatever I do, I'm gonna do it well, like to the best of my ability at least. And I can only hope, like I preempted, just at the beginning of this conversation, I said that I just have to be arrogant enough, just that little bit of that chip on my shoulder, or that like that ego enough to not cripple me, but to drive me to know that if I continue doing this, there will be some reward for it and some acknowledgement for it, or somebody will be able to benefit from it. And of course, yeah, there are songs, when people listen to them, when there are shows, they'll feel emotionally moved, they'll cry. Some people, they write to me saying, oh, this song did something for me, and that is huge. That's enough sometimes, man. That is good. Of course I want to scale, of course I want to be big. And I've been thinking about fame a lot, in the recent year. And I think about how, I have great ambition, Saurabh. Just as a person, I want to do bigger and bigger things all the time. But I've realized two things about that. One is like fame is a treacherous kind of slope, right? Like, what is the internet basically exposed about everybody pre-internet? That they were all assholes. Okay, it's just like people didn't know how to kind of manage this. It's a difficult thing, it's not as easy as it seems. And my heroes, all of my heroes, like Katie Tunstall is the singer-songwriter who I've had the pleasure of meeting, and I've really kind of has been like my spiritual guide, like as a musician. She is this songwriter who is probably never gonna, like, her first single, Suddenly I See, or Black House and the Cherry Trees, it's probably her most known song, and nobody else will know. Like, if you're a casual fan, you're not gonna know what she's done of late, and maybe some, in the middle. But for the hardcore fans, they're like super concentrated. That she has been like the most influential person in my life as a musician. And it doesn't matter that she's not Adele or Taylor Swift or anything like that. She cultivated something really valuable for people like me, that I can say that I've my life has been governed by a lot of those things, like a lot of that, that art that she put out. And any of the great artists that I also like, I have had careers that are not, oh, this make it moment that every parent in India is kind of looking for. It's like, oh, when are you going to make it? So there's nothing. It's a career, just like anything else. Music is a career. It's you keep doing it. You just keep going. You keep going. You keep going. And yeah, maybe you're lucky, you'll have like suddenly this moment, a viral moment. They would used to be called a breakthrough moment. It's like a viral moment. Maybe you'll have that, maybe, and then that'll also fade, and then you just go on. It's a hard thing to sustain. So for me right now, the way I look at it is that I got to keep creating stuff that I really want to do, of course, and I just got to trust that people will enjoy that. And the second thing is to do something bigger than myself. I have to realize that there's a cap, right, on what I do, because ultimately I do sing pop songs in English, right? There's going to be a
Hmm.
cap, and then if I want to make some kind of impact in like a social sense, then I have to help enable other people, right? And I've not even close to reach that cap for me, at least. But at the same time, I have to realize that my skills can be used to help tell somebody else's story, or somebody to do something bigger than myself. I think that is also really important to kind of think about. At least now that I'm in my 30s, I have to think about how what kind of legacy I want to leave.
Right.
And like, what do I want to be known for? Like, what is the identity that people see when they see me? One is like, yes, I love this earnest fool kind of persona that I have. I want to inspire people. I definitely want to move them to feel something, but I also want to be able to have some impact. I want to be able to kind of like say that, oh, I helped something greater than myself. I think these are the two kind of tenets that I definitely want to consider, at least in this next decade, that I do. And that's like an overarching goal, perhaps. But otherwise, it's just to continue creating and don't look back, man. Just, there's so many things like imposter syndrome. I feel like, yes, I have imposter syndrome at times, but now I'm just like, man, what is the only thing I know how to do well? It's like write a song. Like, that's the only thing I
Yeah.
know how to do, like write a good song. I have to believe that. Otherwise, I literally have nothing else. So I have to kind of, now I'm convinced that, okay, this is something I know how to do. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. So I got to just keep doing that, man. Just keep moving forward. Don't think about what effect it's going to have now. Just think about what it's going to create later on. And that's basically it.
That's pretty cool, man. I mean, in terms of sustainability, that the aspect of that you already have super fans. That's why I'm sharing this with you. Is that you know about Razorpay? What Razorpay is?
I do know about Razorpay. It's a gateway,
It's a
payment
payment
gateway.
gateway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like we have Patreon.com where you can have. I just checked for Katie Tunstall. She's got 333
Is yeah, yeah,
patrons.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a certain amount of revenue coming in for an artist like her to keep creating whatever she's up to, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And of course, there are super fans. They are not your regular fans.
Yeah,
These are
who
the
pay a
fans,
premium, yeah, for more.
yeah, who paying about $10 a month.
Yeah.
So now what Razorpay has done is you can actually get a button from their payment gateway.
Oh, sweet.
It's a
Nice.
subscribe button. Now it's all Indian payment gateways.
That's
It's
great.
not something which is going to come through PayPal and you need no credit card, nothing. You don't need all that.
That dollar sign is always like kind of like you're just
That's
like
true. Yeah, that's true. And I've also been thinking of moving my courses to the subscription system pretty soon. Right
for
now, it's
sure.
a monthly payment system. Then it'll become a subscription system. What I'm suggesting to you is that if you on your website or something, if you can create that subscribe button where people can support you by sending,
Right.
can be a small amount, anything 300,
Everything counts.
200,
Absolutely.
500, and it becomes an auto debit system on the website where
Right.
you can generate enough funds every month for yourself to be for your rent to be taken care of or something.
Man, yeah,
It's
that would
it's
be
pretty
that's superb.
doable actually for a person like you, especially. You're
Ah,
so loved and you're so
thank you, man. I appreciate that.
everybody loves you so much, and your music is so authentic.
Thank you, man.
Man, this has been wonderful, and I haven't chatted with you
I know this is
in
so
this
cool
much
though. Yeah, I know.
detail and for so long. It's been fun. It's been fun.
Dude,
Thank you so much for doing
my
this.
pleasure. And what you're doing, like taking your time to kind of ask other people about their stories, you're doing God's work as far as I'm concerned, man. So
Thank you, man.
yeah, no,
I'm
I
enjoying
appreciate
it, learning a lot. Thank you
it.
so much. I'll just stop the recording.
Sure.
Call is on. Thank you guys for coming to the podcast. I'll see you guys next week. Bye bye.